Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever been driving, maybe through town, and you certainly catch that unmistakable smell?
Oh yeah, the rotten egg smell.
Exactly. That whiff,
Ah.
well, it's more than just unpleasant, isn't it?
Yeah.
That smell is actually costing our cities billions in infrastructure damage every single year.
That's right. We're talking about hydrogen sulfide, H2S, down in our wastewater systems. It's kind of an invisible enemy.
Right. Eating away at pipes, budgets, all happening right under our streets.
Mm.
For municipalities, this stuff, H2S, it's a huge headache. It's odors, sure, but it's also serious corrosion.
And big operational costs. So our mission today really is to explore how cities are fighting back against this H2S challenge. We're going to compare some of the traditional methods with newer, innovative solutions.
Okay.
Specifically, we'll look at two main approaches. There are the nitrate-based treatments, like calcium nitrate, often just called Bioxide.
The old standard, maybe?
Kind of, yeah. And then there's a newer buffered iron solution called SulFeLox. And what's fascinating here is that the choice, which chemical to use, it isn't just about the smell.
No.
No, it impacts, well, everything. How long the pipes last, the city's budget, even how often work crews are out there dealing with issues.
Okay, so for you listening, this deep dive is basically your shortcut to getting the complex trade-offs cities face daily. We'll arm you with some surprising facts, some real practical implications for how things are run, so you can see the unseen work keeping everything flowing.
Right.
So we hear about H2S, hydrogen sulfide, that rotten egg smell. It tells us conditions are anaerobic, right? No oxygen down there.
Correct.
But beyond just the nuisance smell, what are the really destructive, maybe hidden impacts cities deal with? And how does it even, start?
Yeah, good question. So H2S is basically a byproduct. It happens when there's no oxygen, anaerobic conditions in the wastewater. Certain microbes, they just thrive in that environment. They break down organic stuff and boom, H2S gas is produced. And this gas, it's really a dual threat. First, like you said, the immediate obvious odor.
The rotten eggs?
The rotten eggs.
Okay.
It hits community quality of life, leads to complaints. It's just plain unpleasant.
Right. Nobody wants their neighborhood smelling like that. That's the nuisance part. But you said dual threat. What's the other more destructive side?
Absolutely. The second threat, and you could argue it's more insidious, is corrosion. H2S gas doesn't just stay gas forever.
Okay.
When it hits moisture and oxygen, say on the surface of concrete or metal, it transforms into sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid.
Yes. And this acid literally eats away at critical infrastructure. We're talking pipes, pump stations, the collection points, and even parts of the treatment plant itself. This leads to incredibly expensive repairs, things failing way before they should, and just a much shorter life for vital city assets.
So it really raises a big question, doesn't it? How do you manage something that's both annoying and destructive while trying to keep costs under control for taxpayers?
Exactly. That's the core challenge.
And yeah, when that infrastructure corrodes, city budgets get strained. Ultimately, it's taxpayer money fitting the bill for these unexpected, expensive fixes. So cities have been fighting this for ages, for years, like you mentioned, nitrates, calcium nitrate, bioxide. How do those actually work?
So these nitrate-based solutions, they often have, fancy proprietary formulations, but fundamentally they work biologically.
Biologically, how?
They essentially shift the metabolism of the microbes in the wastewater. They give the bacteria an alternative oxygen source.
Ah, okay.
This encourages them to reduce the sulfide, but without making that nasty H2S gas. And importantly, without producing lots of extra solid byproducts.
So if I'm getting this right, it's like giving the bacteria a different job or a different food source, maybe, diverting them.
Precisely. You've got it. And the main advantage of this method, it typically minimizes the sulfide without creating much sludge buildup in the pipes or the wet wells.
That sounds like a big plus for the ops teams.
It is. Less solids management needed directly because of the chemical, but there are some pretty significant drawbacks, too.
Okay, like what?
Well, nitrate treatments often need continuous dosing and at high volumes.
High volumes, meaning lots of chemical.
Lots of chemical,
Yeah.
which means frequent deliveries, logistical headaches, and, high ongoing costs.
I see.
Plus, if the system gets underdosed even for a short time, sulfide can rebound really quickly.
So the smell comes right back.
Almost immediately, leading to new complaints. And in those really long systems, like force mains, where wastewater sits for hours and hours, nitrates might just not last the whole journey. They might not provide treatment all the way to the endpoint.
So while it's good for avoiding extra solids, the sheer amount you need and the cost, that creates its own problems, especially for a growing city.
Exactly. It can become a real challenge to scale up effectively.
Okay, now let's switch gears. There's this emerging alternative you mentioned. It promises, well, similar effectiveness, maybe lower costs, maybe even better safety. SulFeLox.
That's the one.
Tell us about this. What is SulFeLox?
Sure.
And how does it stack up against the traditional nitrate approach?
So SulFeLox is what's called a buffered iron solution. Think of it as a low-hazard type of iron salt,
Good.
specifically engineered to tackle H2S in collection systems.
Okay, iron-based. How does it work differently from the nitrates?
Completely different mechanism. Nitrates work biologically, remember. SulFeLox works chemically. It directly binds with the H2S.
Binds with it.
Yeah, it captures it and locks it into a non-volatile compound called ferrous sulfide, FES. So it basically takes the H2S out of action immediately.
That direct binding sounds pretty robust. More immediate, maybe.
Wow.
What are the key advantages there compared to nitrates?
It is definitely more direct, and that brings several advantages. Take safety, for instance. USP Technologies, the company behind it, they claim a hazard rating similar to, or maybe even lower than, calcium nitrate. And definitely safer than a lot of the traditional raw iron salts people sometimes used. That makes it more suitable for dosing in, say, residential or commercial areas. Fewer safety concerns.
That's important. What about cost and efficiency?
That's where it gets really interesting. SulFeLox can often replace nitrates on something like a 1:2 or even 1:3 ratio.
Okay. 1 part SulFeLox does the work of 2 or 3 parts nitrate.
In terms of volume, yes, you need significantly less chemical volume to get the same, or sometimes even better, H2S control.
Wow, that's a huge reduction in volume. Does that introduce any new complexities? Or is it mostly upside?
Well, it's a great question. The lower volume is definitely a major upside. Fewer deliveries, less operator time handling chemicals and checking feed stations. The main consideration, maybe complexity, is the type of solid it produces, which we'll definitely get into when we talk pump outs.
Okay.
But in terms of how it works, it's also designed to perform really well, exactly where nitrates sometimes struggle, those long, slow-moving pipes that generate a lot of sulfide.
Right, where the nitrates might run out of steam.
Yeah. Exactly. And beyond just H2S, SulFeLox offers some broader benefits too. It can help preserve volatile fatty acids, VFAs, which are actually good food for the bugs downstream at the treatment plant.
Oh, interesting.
It also aids in phosphorus removal. This could potentially reduce the need for other expensive chemicals cities add at the main plant just for phosphorus control.
So savings potentially down the line, too.
Potentially, yes. It can even improve something called biofloc structure, those little clumps of microbes that help clean the water. Better structure means better treatment. And it can reduce odors during the solids processing stage at the plant, too.
That's quite a list. Improving phosphorus removal, biofloc.
Yeah.
How significant are those broader benefits? Are they often missed when people just focus on the H2S smell?
They can be incredibly significant, and yes, I'd say they're often overlooked when a city is just trying to solve an immediate odor problem. Better phosphorus removal right from the start means less work, less cost, less strain on the main treatment plant to meet its permit limits.
Makes sense.
And better biofloc. That can boost the efficiency of the whole biological treatment process. These aren't just tiny tweaks. They can lead to real long-term operational savings across the entire system.
Okay.
And there's more. The iron, the active ingredient, can sometimes even be regenerated downstream using a special patented process called PISE, so you potentially get to reuse it.
Recycle the chemical, essentially.
In a way, yes, to treat even more sulfide. And importantly, because SulFeLox is buffered, it doesn't mess with the pH or alkalinity of the wastewater nearly as much as traditional unbuffered iron salts can.
Okay, lots of advantages there. Regeneration, pH stability, the downstream benefits. But the real proof is in the pudding, right? How does this stuff actually perform out in the field? Let's bring this theory to life. Tell us about some real-world cases. Bakersfield, California, they had a long sewer line, 10 miles.
That's right. Bakersfield was facing really high cost with their existing calcium nitrate program. It was just getting too expensive. So they commissioned a study to see if SulFeLox could be a viable alternative on this particularly challenging 10-mile stretch of sewer.
What happened?
The results were pretty compelling. They started small, replaced 2 calcium nitrate stations with just 1 SulFeLox station. It worked well, so they expanded.
How did it scale up? Yeah. What were the final results for Bakersfield in terms of savings and, actual performance?
Well, they eventually replaced 7 other calcium nitrate sites with only 3 SulFeLox sites. So they went from 9 chemical feed locations down to just 4.
Wow, less than half the sites.
Exactly. And performance-wise, they saw 66 to 83% lower peaks in the H2S vapor readings at key points. And the bottom line, their annual spending on H2S control dropped from around $990,000 a year for the calcium nitrate down to $663,000 for SulFeLox.
That's over $300,000 saved per year. Significant.
Very significant. And they also saw knock-on benefits at their main treatment plant. They were able to stop adding a different iron chemical, ferrous chloride, to their digesters because the SulFeLox upstream was already helping with sulfide control there too.
Okay, so clear benefits in Bakersfield. Let's head east. Neely's Bend, Tennessee. What was their challenge?
Neely's Bend was dealing with rising chemical prices for their existing Bioxide program. Their main issue was a very long retention force, meaning wastewater was sitting in there for maybe 7 or 8 hours.
Exactly the kind of place nitrates might struggle, you said.
Precisely. So USP Technologies came in to demonstrate that SulFeLox could effectively replace the Bioxide even in that tough environment.
And did it. What were the findings on performance and cost there?
They did. They showed pretty quickly, within about 3 weeks, that they could achieve a 3-to-1 volume replacement ratio. So 1 gallon of SulFeLox doing the job of 3 gallons of Bioxide.
3 to 1? Impressive.
Yeah. And based on that, they estimated about a 20% cost saving over a full year compared to the Bioxide program. Performance-wise, they also saw a 22% decrease in the average vapor H2S levels compared to the previous year using Bioxide.
Okay, so again, we're seeing a consistent pattern here. Substantial cost savings, fewer dosing sites needed, and good, sometimes even better, H2S control.
That's what the case study suggests, yeah.
But, and here comes the but again. While these results sound great, the real world of managing wastewater is always full of trade-offs, isn't it?
Always.
And one of the biggest factors, maybe one that gets overlooked sometimes, is the impact on a city's actual day-to-day maintenance, specifically something called pump-outs.
Ah, yes, pump-outs. Crucial factor.
So connect the dots for us. What does H2S control chemistry have to do with needing to pump out wet wells or pipes? And why should you, the listener, care about pump-outs?
It's a really important connection. High sulfide levels, as we know, cause corrosion and nasty odors. These problems themselves often trigger what we call reactive pump-outs.
Reactive, meaning unplanned.
Exactly. An emergency call, hey, this wet well smells awful, or we think there's a blockage maybe caused by corrosion. So they send out a vacuum truck, a vac truck, to clean it out, clear blockages, try to reduce the immediate problem.
Okay.
But the chemicals we use for H2S control, they can also impact how many solids build up in the system. And more solids generally means more pump outs. And pump outs cost money, big money, actually.
Right, those vac trucks, the crews, the time, it all adds up.
It really does. They're expensive resources.
Okay, so let's break it down then. Treatment method by treatment method. How do the nitrate-based ones, like Bioxide, affect solids and the need for pump-outs?
Right. So nitrates, remember, work biologically, and typically they do that without creating significant extra solids from the chemical itself.
So less sludge directly from the Bioxide.
Generally, yes. That's the pro side. Fewer pump-outs needed specifically because of chemical-induced solids. The cons, though, we already mentioned the high volume, meaning more deliveries, and that issue of rebound. If you underdose, the sulfide comes roaring back, you get odor complaints, and boom, you might need a reactive emergency pump out anyway to deal with the immediate smell or blockage hotspot.
So you might avoid solids from the chemical, but still end up doing emergency pump-outs because of H2S rebound.
That's the risk, yes.
Yeah.
Plus, in those very long pipes, if the treatment fades near the end, you might still get issues downstream that require intervention, maybe pump-outs closer to the plant.
Okay. Now, what about SulFeLox, the buffered iron? How does its chemistry play into the pump-out equation?
So SulFeLox works by binding sulfide to iron, creating ferrous sulfide, FeS. That's a solid.
Right.
So because of this chemical reaction, you may see more settled solids accumulating in wet wells compared to using nitrates. If the system isn't really designed to handle extra solids well, or if it's not managed properly, this could potentially increase the frequency of routine planned pump-outs just for solids removal.
Okay, so that's the potential downside, potentially more routine cleaning needed?
Potentially, yes. But there's a very important flip side. The chemistry of SulFeLox, that direct binding, is very durable. The sulfide stays locked up. Odors don't tend to rebound quickly if there's a temporary hiccup in dosing.
Ah, so it's more stable control.
More stable, more durable control, which means you potentially have fewer of those costly, disruptive, reactive emergency pump-outs triggered by sudden odor issues or severe corrosion events.
I see. So it's a trade-off. Maybe more planned solids management, but potentially fewer unplanned emergencies.
That's often how it plays out, yes. And remember the lower volume aspect, too. Fewer deliveries, potentially fewer feed stations to manage that, frees up operator time and resources as well.
Okay, so it's definitely not simple. It's nuanced. Let's make this really concrete. Imagine a place like Loudoun County, Virginia. Rapidly growing, expecting maybe 100,000 new residents, plus data centers popping up everywhere.
Right, huge growth. Huge increase in wastewater flow is expected.
Exactly. More wastewater means more potential for sulfide generation. And all this puts a massive strain on their existing resources, like their fleet of vac trucks, which might already be stretched thin.
A very realistic scenario for many growing areas.
So how would a county like Loudoun navigate these trade-offs? Choosing between, say, sticking with Bioxide versus switching to SulFeLox for H2S control, keeping that limited vac truck fleet in mind.
That becomes a really critical strategic decision for a county like that. If they decide to stick mainly with Bioxide or other nitrates, well, the advantage is likely less solids buildup directly from the chemical itself.
Simpler for spots where they already know solids are a problem.
Could be, yeah, easier to manage from that specific perspective. But the downsides are pretty big, especially with that kind of growth. Higher ongoing chemical costs because of the sheer volume needed, more frequent deliveries tying up resources, and it might not scale efficiently. Costs could really escalate as flows increase.
Okay. And what if they considered switching significantly to SulFeLox? What are the pros and cons for their operations team thinking about those vac trucks?
The pros of switching would be that lower dosage and volume, fewer deliveries, less operator time spent just managing chemical feeds. Big savings there. You get strong, durable sulfide control, which means less sulfide rebound.
And potentially fewer emergency pump outs.
Potentially fewer of those really urgent, costly emergency calls for odor or corrosion. Plus, the lower hazard profile is a bonus for safety.
But the solids.
But the solids, yes. As we said, SulFeLox does produce iron solids. So while you might reduce emergency pump-outs, you might still need regular maintenance pump-outs to manage those solids in the wet wells. The key is whether the system can handle it. Is there good mixing? Are the pumps appropriate?
So it might require some engineering thought, maybe some upgrades.
It might. Maybe re-engineering some feed sites or optimizing truck loading facilities. It becomes about managing the type of maintenance you do, shifting perhaps from reactive to more planned maintenance, which is usually more efficient anyway.
So given all that, especially the growth and the potentially limited vac truck capacity, what's a practical path forward for a place like Loudoun? Is it all or nothing?
Rarely is it all or nothing in wastewater. Often, a hybrid approach makes the most sense.
Hybrid, meaning use both.
Exactly. Use SulFeLox strategically. Put it on those long force mains, the chronic problem areas where sulfide rebound is a constant headache. That's where you'll likely see the biggest reduction in corrosion, odor complaints, and those painful emergency pump outs.
Okay, target the worst spots first.
Right. But maybe, at the same time, keep using Bioxide or nitrates at specific sites where they know adding iron solids would just overwhelm their current vac truck capacity or cause immediate operational issues they aren't ready to re-engineer for yet.
That makes sense. Tailor the solution.
Absolutely. And crucially, pilot test. Compare apples to apples. Set up similar stations, one with SulFeLox, one with Bioxide. Track not just the chemical costs, but the H2S levels, the number of odor complaints, and the actual vac truck hours spent at each site.
Get the real operational data.
Get the real data. Because the cheapest chemical isn't always the lowest total cost when you factor in maintenance and emergencies. And investing in smart systems, better monitoring, maybe optimized loading points becomes just as important as the chemical choice itself, especially when you're growing fast.
This really has been a deep dive. It shows clearly that controlling something like H2S, it's this intricate balancing act, isn't it, between how well the chemical works, the cost savings, the environmental side, and these really practical operational challenges like managing solids and how often those vac trucks have to roll.
Definitely not a one-size-fits-all decision. It depends so much on the city's specific situation, their pipes, their growth, their existing resources.
It really underscores that the choice isn't simple.
Indeed. And I think what this deep dive really highlights is that even for something people rarely think about, like wastewater treatment, these innovative solutions like SulFeLox, They offer really compelling advantages: lower costs, better safety, durable control. But they also bring new variables, new trade-offs, like those iron solids.
Right.
So the real genius, maybe, isn't just finding a better chemical. It's about designing and managing the entire system, the chemical, the monitoring, the maintenance schedule, to leverage the strengths of that chemical while proactively managing its challenges. That's how you get the best long-term benefit for the community and protect that vital, hidden infrastructure.
That's a great point. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other hidden trade-offs like this exist in all the essential services that, just keep our cities running smoothly day to day, the things we take for granted until they break.
It's a fascinating question to ponder.
It truly is. It shows how crucial technology and really smart management are, constantly evolving to solve these vital, yet often invisible, problems right beneath our feet.